Hello and welcome to another League of Legends guide, and in this one we are going to be having a look at why you simply cannot close games. And while of course this is a jungle channel, therefore this will be taken from the jungle perspective, the non-smite aspects can really be applied to basically any role and any champion. So if you've got, duos you play with, flex queue teams, clash squads, LCS organizations that can't seem to time an objective, essentially we are going to be identifying the reasons why you always seem to have these free wins become painfully long wins when they really shouldn't be, like 15-20 minutes extra, or you just simply end up losing. And so I have come up with an interesting format that I hope illustrates what is exactly holding all of you back from closing these games out, how you can become a better jungler and a better player. But if you don't want full coaching VODs and access to all the coaching signups, that is on the Patreon. And please of course consider leaving a like and of course subscribing if you enjoy the content and want more. And now without further hesitation, let's begin. And I know a lot of you, because it's the brand new Season 12, are blaming the introduction of objective bounties. I'm here to tell you that that's simply another excuse that you can use and abuse while simply being untrue. I thought, how can I best break down this video into its simplest forms while essentially showing you how you don't abuse your numbers advantages as a team, you don't use timing mismatches, you don't understand gold advantage, you don't understand flow of games, and therefore you always end up smacking your head against a brick wall hoping it breaks so that you can win. And a lot of the labels that I've come up with, all 6 of them actually, all bleed together and can have certain presence in certain games and cause you simply to lose. We have 3 examples. I will go over each one, and when the core thing you need to identify shows up, I will let you know what it's called. Currently, you're seeing a Warwick jungle with his team super far ahead. They've just secured a herald and they're going down to the dragon. He pulls the trigger on the Shyvana. He has a lot of gold in pocket, as you would have seen as well. And now because the jungler's dead, we can secure the Drake. 20 minutes is upcoming, which means because we have such a good lead, we can easily use that to posture and maybe even secure a Baron. The question is, should you? The second question is, are you a dirty goblin hoarder? He's been out on the field, his team's resetting, but he thinks and fixates on, I really need enough gold for Titanic Hydra, I'm gonna stay out. Now what being a dirty goblin hoarder for gold means is that while your team resets and spends that gold, even if you have a 10k gold lead, if you have, 2 to 3k unspent, that's a 7k gold lead, and you might not have the gold lead you think over the target you're meant to be focusing, peeling, engaging on, etc. And because you stay out now long after these objectives to farm your camps while your team resets, there's nothing really happening. By the time your team regroups and is able to, get together to try one more play while you have a huge lead to simply close the game out, you have gold unspent. Now this might not always affect you directly, but it can certainly create issues when you do not have a 10k gold lead. And because you simply don't reset or maybe stay out with all this gold in your pocket, if the next play you make is a bad one, it can have a snowball effect against you, and that's especially strong with objective bounties. You will note that the blue team has it active for Baron, has it active for towers. If you make the wrong mistake and they get, a Baron, a tower, maybe another tower, and of course you give them shutdowns, you shouldn't be blaming the bounties, you should be blaming your bad decisions. What you don't want to be on top of a dirty goblin hoarder is a coin flipper. That means not only have you stayed out now because you've got a lot of gold in pocket, the plays you subsequently make have inherent risk. Observe, instead of pushing the map and perhaps, taking out a turret, forgetting the fact that we don't really need the Baron at this moment, Shen splitting on the bottom side, which means he can always yeet in with his ult whenever he wants. Do you really think it's worth essentially going for 50-50 Baron smite just because you have a 10k gold lead? Gold leads don't impact smite ability. One of the things I'm good at personally is simply yeeting away objectives. I just like timing it well. I always play champions that, have a good feel with the smite combos. And I absolutely adore when leading teams who have a gold lead and everything under their control just go for a coin flip Baron, and then I end up taking it. The worst thing about coin flipping is that instead of turning for a good fight and acing them and then securing the objective, you just keep posturing in the river over and over again. You're wasting time. The whole enemy team is clearing and farming and pushing. You're just sitting in the river waiting to do this Baron. You're losing HP, you get to a point of no return, and the Shyvana steals it. Now ideally you can still wipe them and win the fights, and the worst case scenario is you lose the Baron, the bounty, and the bottom lane tower bounty. But if you do give a few shutdowns and now you're dead off the map, they have the Baron, you basically create a scenario where over the next subsequent minutes, they can just push all the waves out, you can't simply run into them to try and kill them. And if you have died and you're off the map and there's another objective, you have to simply direct your focus to that, except the next fight you guys have, you only have a 5k gold lead. That's a meaningful shift in the dynamics between the 2 teams. The worst part about this is if you are not only a coin flipper, a dirty goblin hoarder, but you're also the great hesitator. This is something I love doing. As soon as a team in the lead makes one positional mistake, you just pull the button, you just go. And if you're an engaged champion, you're a Warwick, you're a Volibear, you're a tank, even if you're an assassin, if a squishy, a support, a top laner, anyone steps out of position, pull the trigger, use your numbers advantage, and get that win. In this case, our Warwick was not only doing his blue before the dragon. If we freeze the frame, which I would have done already most likely, you can see that there's a numbers disadvantage on the bottom side and the top side. If your whole team is able to commit to one side or the other, you have a numbers advantage that you can use. The worst thing you can do is simply run away to your blue buff. You had the positional advantage even with someone being low HP, walking back into a funnel versus a Shyvana and a Victor. That's not the right call. Make sure if people are out of position and you still have the lead, that you use that, you pull the trigger, do not hesitate too long. The window for engage is often very narrow. And if I fast forward a little bit, doesn't really matter that we clean up the fight, we get a few kills. We waste a lot of time. We could have just used pushing the map with the Baron we should have gotten. Coin flipping scenarios, and basically because they got the Baron, because they got the shutdowns, and because they now grouped up together and we're in a bit of a weird situation, they're pushing our inhib tower and the gold lead that we had is only 2k. Now they're able to stick it out, get a few picks, get the next Baron and win the game, but it basically elongated the whole process 15 to 20 minutes. Let's look at this next scenario where we have a Kayn who doesn't coin flip the Baron, instead push the map by counter jungling, getting deep vision, taking towers. The whole team can now fall back to the Baron, no stress over 50-50, and now we can actually, oh wait a second, he's staying out. He also has a lot of gold. Another dirty goblin hoarder. This is gonna come back to bite him. You know it's gonna come back to bite him. He stays out with all his gold. He wants to counter jungle to push the map further. These are all noble causes, but his team just got a Baron, won a fight, went back to base, reset. There's a dragon spawning and the enemy team has bounties active. Once more, if they all die, if the Kayn, maybe he gets some picks and then falls like he does, and the enemy team is able to clean up kills as they do, and now they can take the dragon as it spawns, which they can. Is it really the bounty's fault, or is it the fault because you stayed out with too much gold and didn't reset with the rest of your team? You got greedy, you were out of position, you didn't think about the numbers advantage, but as most of you with eyes will notice, hey look, there's people splitting on the top side and they got an inhibitor. How cool is that? Yeah, but now, 3 of your 5 are basically dead and out of sync with the rest of you. The numbers advantage you could and should have had, you no longer do. And instead of loving their gold too much, they love experience too much. They are back haters. It doesn't matter that 3 out of the 5 members are dead or in base, and the whole enemy team is ready to go. They simply want to keep pushing the minions as far as they can because they need the experience, they want the level leads. The gold's nice too, I guess, but they just cannot give up any CS. This is most notably what your ADC players are like. As a consequence, they both die. Now what happens? Well, instead of having a cohesive and strong, 5-man grouping at the dragon, pushing the waves of the Baron, around the wall, taking all the inhibs, if someone steps out, you assassinate them because you're blue Kayn. No, now everyone's number advantage is out of sync. The people who were dead first are on the map, and the people who died after are off the map. Now, if you stay out on the map too long again, you're gonna die once more, as the Kayn does, because he is impatient. And this is what happens when you don't back at the right time, like the Warwick, like the Kayn. This is what happens when you hold your gold too much, like the Warwick, like the Kayn. You create these windows where you're not with your team and your team is not with you. And when that's the case, you cannot abuse your lead, and it really doesn't matter if you are the fed one, and you cannot blame your team or objective bounties because of this. It is on you. Except, the whole blue team just sits there in their base and they get super minions rushing at them for free because that's what they do. Experience, gold, time, they can just piss chill in their base and get fed. Now, because everyone's presence on the map is distorted, it's going to lead to numbers advantages for the blue team, which they can then use themselves to push on all the way to the bottom inhib. And that's why you lose games, that's why you throw games as a Kayn in this scenario, as a Warwick in this example. Except guess what? The blue team is of the same elo, which means they're also back haters, they overstay, and they die. The Graves decided, you know what, that's a good day's work, I'm gonna go back and farm my camps. His whole team decided to stick around and try push more, and in this case, both sides were really incorrect. And yes, falling back to the dragon is the ultimate goal, but if you still have numbers advantage in those situations and you are the fed member as the Graves, you can impact the outcome by hanging around and at least helping disengage. Maybe you get a kill first and people live. And this is something most important as well. Don't be a turtler. Any strategy game enthusiast knows that turtling is not always the most enjoyable thing to face, and in League of Legends, it's the opposite of pushing the map. It's something that truly and really afflicts a lot of low elo players. It affects a lot of people even in low diamond. You get fed, you do all the work, you have a lead, your team's ready to push tier 2s, tier 3s, get inhibs, and you're farming your own camps. What's the point in turtling if you're already winning? What's the point in turtling if you already have enough of a lead from turtling that you can actually just go and end the game? At some point, you have to open the gates of the Holy Roman Empire, take all your paladins, and just stormroll everyone on the map. And of course, make sure you have monks presence for the healing. Whereas the Kayn was really pushing the counter jungling and denying that experience by saying, hey, we're gonna keep pushing forward. He made those 2 crucial errors which allowed the blue team back into the game. Doesn't matter what his team did, he was the instigator, and without those mistakes, it doesn't happen. Now, a final example has a little bit of everything. You'll note we're following the bottom side here because the blue team has an extravagant lead. The Kassadin has around 3,000 in pocket, but he doesn't want to hoard his gold, so he goes back to base. The Talon, the jungler, was splitting on the top side, because they wanted to push the map, go around the world. That's great, but it doesn't really help you if you continually do all the other things wrong. In this situation, the Kassadin's gone back to base. The rest of his team are back haters, which means they stay around way too long instead of using their advantage to gold reset. and they get obliterated because numbers advantage. The survivors of this horrible experience decide, okay, fine, we'll go back to base, we'll wait till we're all together. The talent says, no, I am a superhero and I will carry this, never mind. And I bet you that's most of you. Yeah, that's why assassin players are not really that great in low elo, and even in this elo game, they're not that great either. By the way, every single example was from your sort of mid-plat elo transitioning into diamond, because it's a great representation of players that still make these fundamental mistakes that affect you in low elo, but even if someone reaches plat, reaches low diamond, and becomes super great on their champion mechanically that allowed them to do so, the biggest thing that holds this elo back is everything in this video. And obviously this is what affects low elo, but it's not the only thing. So this video and all the examples contained therein are a great representation for the 99% of you of what you need to fix in order to close games out properly without throwing them and elongating them for no reason. And you will notice as a byproduct of the Kassadin going back to base, the rest of the team not doing that, the Talon being a fantasist, the Poppy is able to get a bounty on the tower on the top side. Because all the backs are now distorted as a byproduct of everyone doing one of these things incorrectly, the red team is able to get a team fight in their favor in the mid lane. Now they can swoop to the Baron, take that, which is also a bounty, and the gold lead is basically offset because now they have a gold lead. And that's what happens, by the way, when you're not a great hesitator. They just saw the numbers advantage in the mid lane, pull the trigger, get a Baron, get another bounty, and now they're in the driver's seat. And again, the blue team actually ended up winning this game because the red team did some of these things as well and then lost anyway. So while you might get these huge leads and still win the game because at the end of the day you still had stronger members, either you lose the game in the end or you simply elongate it and stretch it and coin flip it when you really don't need to. And I thought by highlighting some of these scenarios you could really label yourself and look in game, look at your replays, identify when these things are happening not only to you but also your duos and your teams, whatever mode you play. Now for each example I've kind of said what they should have been doing, in this case all resetting for the Kassadin. For the Warwick's game, just reset, be with your team, don't coin flip the Baron, pull the trigger on a fight that's numbers advantage, turn like the Zax's team did in the scenario here, because as you saw people collapse, they just turned and used the numbers advantage, killed them all, took the Baron and went back to base. But if you do want a point-by-point on how to close games early and of course use macro, or maybe to come back in the situations that things aren't going well, I will link videos specifically to each of those in the description. But let me know, are you a coin flipper, dirty goblin hoarder, the back hater, superhero delusion fantasist, the great hesitator, or are you a turtle? Not a ninja turtle, a 100-year-old turtle that just sits and looks and contemplates the deeper insinuations and meanings of coulda, shoulda, woulda. And as a sort of caption sentence to this video, objective bounties definitely help the teams in the negative situation, but at the same time, if you have the lead and don't make these mistakes, they're never gonna get those bounties and you're gonna close out earlier. It just means your mistakes are more punished now, and there's nothing wrong with that. No one deserves free wins in League of Legends, and yes, they're a little buggy, and yes, they still need to be ironed out, but that's what the preseason is for. You might as well get used to them. But if you do things by the book, you will be able to deny the bounties and you won't have this issue in the first place. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you were able to enjoy and learn something. Please do leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you did. Don't forget the gameplay channel is all your gameplay breakdowns. Hopefully a new Ultimate Jungle Guide for the first time in 18 months next week. Let's see. Keep those beards bounty free, and as always, I will see you all in the next tutorial.